and the words just came out of my mouth. I just want to get out of here. This could just be an early sign of solo van life insanity creeping in, but it's Monday morning, it's 8:30, I'm getting ready to move on to Scotland. It's raining again. In fact, it's raining quite heavily, and it doesn't look as though it's going to change in the forecast. It's basically rain all day. I'm moving on to Scotland, to this little farm site on a beach. It has its own sandy beach and it looks lovely. It might be raining there, I don't know, but I was just getting the van ready to get started, and there's quite a lot of dust and grass and stuff around, and I was thinking maybe I'll just like brush it up, and the words just came out of my mouth. I just want to get out of here.
Right, I'm about halfway through the journey now, got about an hour to go, about 50 miles. I'm on the A75 now, so I took some A roads up to the north of the lakes and then east onto the M6. And I'm on this A75, which is a really big main road. There's a little bit of traffic on it, but it's going a nice steady kind of 55 miles an hour. Yeah, it feels really nice. It's you know, everything in the Lake District at the moment is just like really hectic because of it being holiday season. Where here, it just feels steady and sensible. There's a lorry in front that's kind of setting the pace, and yeah, it feels nice. It's interesting because on this road there's a parking space literally at least every mile. There's a lay-by to pull in if you want to rest or check your route or whatever, which is really nice. The weather's still pretty much the same as it was in the Lake District. It's drizzling heavily, maybe a little less so, but I'm just going to get to the campsite, book in for one night and plan it from there. I might stay for a couple of nights to sort of use the internet to like book ferries and stuff like that, but I'll just take it as it comes.
Right, it's now about 5 PM on Monday. I've been at this campsite down by the beach for about 4 hours, and I've just been kind of catching up on some stuff on the internet, kind of researching what my options. I was thinking of buying a camper van specific sat nav, because it was one of the things that was causing me a bit of a problem in the lakes, not knowing where I could get the van safely. And you can guess, but it does catch you out occasionally. And the only way I can get one is by ordering it and getting it sent forward to somewhere. But it would mean ordering it about 5 days in advance. So I could potentially get one sent up to Fort William or something like that, to Argus or Halford or something. But I'm not going to, it means that I start having to time myself down to specific times and dates. And at the moment, you know, I'm looking at least 2 ferry crossings. There is one that goes directly from Ardrossan to Campbelltown, which misses out Arran, which is what it looks like most people do, because it's fully booked for the whole month. Yet it's quite easy to get, you know, to book up a ferry that goes to Brodick on the Isle of Arran first, and then you drive round Arran and then go off the top. But then it takes you further up north on the next bit of the peninsula. So that's going to be have to what I do. So I've been just looking at the forecast and working out, you know, how soon to get over there. The forecast is looking to be similarly wet and shit for the next 2 days at least, and then it looks like it's going to pick up. The long range forecast suggests that it's going to get really nice again just when my work starts. My next 3 weeks of work, which will be really fucking annoying if that's the way it happens, but you know, I have no control over that whatsoever. But it's a shame I'm sat here looking out the window at quite a pretty beach, and there are people out there walking along the shore. There's a path that goes up the nearest hill, but you have to walk about half a mile of main road that has no path to get to it, which would be suicidal pretty much here. So I'm a bit stuck for things to do. I could go for a walk in the pissing rain and get soaking wet and then have to bring everything in and dry it off. But to be honest, I'm not that fussed at the moment. Apparently it looks as though it might stop raining around about 9 o'clock tonight. So there's hopefully a possibility of a nice kind of evening walk. Finally got out. I think there's potentially a 15-minute opportunity for a quick walk before it pisses rain. Again, it's supposed to get nice, sunny around 7 or 9, or 7 and 9. I have to be a bit careful with the pigs, there are some lower spots, so it could end up getting quite wet. The beach is just covered in shells. I've been reading up a little bit about access restrictions with regards to, you know, in England and Wales there are lots of recognised footpaths everywhere, but in Scotland there's a right to roam, but you have to be a little bit careful. Like, you can walk around the edges of fields even if there are crops in them, but you know, you've got to be respectful of other people. So there isn't a kind of recognisable coast path here that I've seen. So I don't know if you can just walk along the coast. I need to find out a little bit more. I need to have a shave as well. Look a bit rough. Definitely has a sense of it being quite wild around here, because there just are no recognisable paths. You can see where people are walking along the top of the beach, but it's not like the Southwest Coast Pass or something like that where there's an obvious path and bridges over streams and stuff like that. You're kind of on your own. Okay, just come back from a quick 30-minute walk down on the beach. It's really lovely out there. It's quite an interesting feeling, because when I'm usually on coast paths, like the Wales Coast Path and the Southwest Coast Path, they're all, because it's a recognised path, you always know that somewhere along there are going to be little cafes and places like that. And here, because there are no obvious links, it just feels really odd to me. It just feels really strange. There's no recognised path for you to follow. If you try and walk around just above the high tide mark, you end up climbing over bits of stone, and there are some rocks chucked in a sort of small stream or river to cross it, but there's no obvious path there at all. So I don't know whether people do actually walk along the paths here or whether they just stay on the beach. But yeah, I'm just kind of processing the fact that it feels just very different to anything that I've experienced before. Not that it's bad, it just feels a little bit different and odd. Right, it's Tuesday the 1st of August, and yeah, it's about just coming at 8 o'clock in the morning. Stayed overnight at this lovely little spot by the beach, and yeah, I've got to get to Ardrossan to get the ferry across to Brodick on Arran. Last check-in is 5 to 4. It's only about 2.5 hours drive around the coast for me if I go via Stranraer. So I've got tons of time. But I think I'll probably leave here by 9. Maybe 10, something like that. I could do picking up some things like milk and bread and provisions, just in case I end up staying on Arran for a while. I think there's supposed to be a supermarket when you get over there, but I'm going to be not getting onto the island until nearly 5:30 at night. Not sure if anything's going to be open. Hopefully it will. I'm going to have to wing it on Arran because I've tried a couple of places, you know, camping wise. I can't get on. They're all full, which isn't surprising. So I might have to just do a wild camp one night. And if that's the case, I might only stay one night because I know that being a small island, it sort of doesn't have the capacity to keep a lot of people in vans, and don't want to kind of cause problems, any further problems with that kind of thing. And there seems to be tons of availability for the ferry the other end, and it's really cheap to get across to the western side. So just gonna chill this morning. I've got my breakfast ready to eat. I've had a shower or a wash. There's a really nice, really interesting light this morning. The cloud was quite low in the sky, and it's kind of breaking through layers of cloud. Sorry, the sun is low in the sky and it's breaking through layers of cloud. And kind of reflecting on the sea and the wet rock, and it's got this silvery effect. I've been trying to video it. It's quite hard to capture it, but it's beautiful. It's really lovely to see the sunshine this morning. You know, I've had nearly 4 weeks of rain, and I don't like the rain very much, I've got to be honest. And I can tolerate it when I'm kind of, you know, managing to fit in great runs up mountains and stuff. And I think for me, it's just that I know I'm in these stunningly beautiful locations and it's just frigging raining all the time. So you don't see things at their best. And although it's kind of rugged and beautiful in its own way, it's sort of, at least if you get moments of sunshine, then, you know, it kind of makes up for it a bit. So, yeah, I'm going to do a little bit more research before I hit the road. I'm hoping that somewhere like Stranraer will have some very fairly easy places to park that I can get into a supermarket or something. I'd rather go and, you know, spend some money in small shops if I can, local shops, but it just depends on where I can park the van, but we'll see. I've got plenty of time to kind of look at that. And I'll also kind of, you know, empty the loo and fill the water tank up and everything before I leave here. Well, last night I got chatting to a guy. There are two couples that are around about my age that are into sea kayaking, and they're both staying in vans, you know, self-converted vans, just along the wall from where I am, down by the beach. And they were drying up their dry suits. I'd seen them leave earlier in the day. I just got chatting to them. Really interesting guy, and he got chatting about the way he works, his income, and he's actually used to be a furniture designer and has now transferred his skills into 3D gaming design, working at home, and he's thinking about starting to try to work remotely like I am. So we had a really interesting chat, but it's just fascinating. He's transferred his skills from something very kind of traditional or contemporary traditional, if you see what I mean, contemporary furniture design, into something that's like a mass modern industry. So it got me thinking, I wonder what else I could transfer my skills to if necessary. With regards to having adventures on Arran, it would be quite cool to do a run up Goat Fell, which is something like I think it's 875 meters. It's quite high. Let me just double check that. But I could possibly just park at the bottom of the Glen Rose and run up the valley. And I think there's a col, from memory, there's a col at the end, but I think you have to climb to it. I'm not sure if there's a path up to it. I have to check the EOS maps, but I did a route there years ago, a rock climbing route with a friend of mine. It was multi-pitch. I think it was 2 or 3 pitches. And I went completely off route. It was called Dogleg, and it was only supposed to be a VS, a very severe, which was well within our capabilities at the time. It was very cold. I think it started sort of snowing lightly while we were on it, but I went off route and I ended up climbing this massive slab with no places to place protective gear to protect a fall, and I ended up probably on 40 feet of rope, so directly above the belay. So if I'd come off, I would have fallen 40 feet plus the 40 feet past my belayer plus the rope stretch, and I probably would have, the force potentially would have dragged her off the belay, and we both would have perished. I
I quite like to go back and see if I could find that route, just to have a, I'm not going to climb it, but just to go and look at it and maybe review that situation. I remember we all went out and got horribly drunk that night because I honestly thought I ran out of rope before I realised there were some holes and some places I could place some protection, and as I tried to reach for them, the rope went tight below me and all 4 points of contact of my body started sliding back down the slab. It was fairly steep and I nearly went, but I was screaming down at my friend Helen to give me some more slack in the rope, which he managed to do, release a bit from the belay, and I managed to just lunge up for this hold and grab it and stretch the rope out, place a few bits of gearing and set up a belay so we were safe. But it was one of those kind of, could have been fatal accident for me and my climbing partner. So be quite interesting to go back to the scene of it and maybe run up the valley to it. But I'll plan on it again. I don't really want to, you know, I could just end up staying one night and then just sort of getting a ferry the next day, but it would be nice to try and chill out on Arran a bit if I can find some places to stay. So but as I said, I'm gonna have to wing it a little bit unless I can find something else today while I'm en route or staying at the ferry terminal.
Right, it's now 10:30, just coming through a place called Castle Kennedy. I've just had a text come through about half an hour ago to say that because of weather conditions deteriorating later in the day, my ferry is being brought forward by 2 hours, which means that the kind of leisurely drive with 3 hours to spare is now a not so leisurely drive with, if I'm lucky, an hour to spare, if that. The traffic has got very heavy. There's an awful lot of articulated lorries using some on the A75, and then from Stranraer I pick up the A77 to go up north up the coast. And yeah, so I'm a tiny little bit stressed out because, yeah, the ferry leaves at 2 instead of 4 o'clock, and I've got to be there for half past 1. As long as I don't hit too much traffic, I'll get there with a bit of time. I was hoping to stop and get some food and stuff like that on the way there, but it does mean I get to Brodick on Arran at about 3 o'clock, and apparently there's a supermarket and a big car park, and I'll have plenty of time to find somewhere to stop. I've had another look this morning, and there are places kind of north of Brodick around Goat Fell, and potentially some places that I could, if we get a weather window, just park and then do a fast descent instead of resting my legs, which I should be doing really. But yeah, I'm coming up to the A77 turn off, so I need to focus a bit. But as long as there aren't any huge traffic jams or accidents, I should be fine.
I'm standing behind my van because there's a guy who looks like he's a taxi driver on the other side of the car park giving me weird looks. And I'm out in the middle of nowhere. That's Ailsa Craig and Arran in the background. We're about an hour and a quarter from the harbour, and I've got just under an hour spare at the moment before the check-in closes, so I should have plenty of time. I've just stopped and poked a sandwich in my face really quickly. I've got an apple ready. But, oh, the scenery along here is stunning. Just as you get north of Stranraer, the road is brilliant, really, really good, and it starts looking a bit like kind of Scandinavian, Norway sort of thing. But the sun's come out, which has made it absolutely beautiful. And I passed a place just north of Stranraer where the big ferries, P&O and Stena Line ferries go. But yeah, this is what it was all about. It turns out the guy who stood randomly in this lay-by with a van is supporting some Land's End to John O'Groats guys by the looks of it. Right, I've made it to the terminal. I'm checked in.
I put in lane 1 behind some massive digger things. But I think that's where the motorhomes go. Yeah, and I've got here with 45 minutes spare before check-in closes. So, and there are already about 12, 15 vehicles here. Yeah, I don't know how it works. If everyone's been brought forward, I don't know whether they just cram more people on the ferry or whether they just turn the ferry straight around again. But anyway, we're here. I need to kind of decide where I'm going to head when I get the other side. I want to try and see if I can get in a supermarket. I'd quite like to head to the north and try and find somewhere to park near Goat Fell, because if the weather clears, I could attempt to do a fast ascent of it tomorrow, potentially, or in the next couple of days. But because I haven't got anywhere booked, I've got Camp Wild tonight anyway. But anyway, yeah, that went quite well. Van's behaved itself very well. It's all fine. So just glad to be here, to be chill out. I think the ferry takes about an hour, so I'll get some footage on that. It's funny how there's always a mad rush for ferries. It's like 1:30 is supposed to be the cut-off time for check-in, and it looks like there are probably almost as many cars queued up at the check-in as there are actually already here. And it's 1 minute before the check-in is supposed to close. There's this mad rush of people trying to get in.